Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is. Hey, so welcome back. It is Tuesday, and man, I don't know how to feel about today. Yesterday, I just kind of went on a tear and talking about the fact that I don't have credibility. So I'm going to start every show with the fact that, yeah, I just want you to know that they said I don't have credibility. They don't have credibility. I lack credibility because they say so. And I keep looking around at the accomplishment. I just started picking up the phone and started looking at other people's credibility and thinking to myself, all right, well, what makes that person credible? I mean, I don't know. I built multiple companies, took some from a cocktail napkin to 160 million in revenue. I don't have any credibility at all. I agree with you. I have no credibility. If the litmus test is that you have to be a treasure hunter and you have to work for the CIA, like if that's the litmus test, I failed. If you have to kiss the boots of influencers, I failed. Like I just have no interest in having that type of credibility. But if you want to talk about what's happening holistically across the board with elections and Joe is right again, then I think I have credibility. And I've been able to do things that and contribute without asking for anything in return to a lot of people across the country. And have I been wrong before? Maybe. Yeah, probably. But I don't know a whole lot of people that spent as much money and as much resources as I have chasing things for people that would step over my dead body, meaning most of the general public, just to give people an opportunity to have opportunities in the future. So I lack credibility. So if you're listening to me, welcome to Mr. Don't have any credibility. We're going to have a great show today. And we're going to talk about something that's probably going to put me in a better position or worse position on what credibility means. So what does credibility mean? When do you have credibility? And by the way, my lack of credibility is tied to the fact that I said I wanted to have gallows from coast to coast, and I wanted to hang treasonous traitors because it's not a victimless crime. I stand by that. I stand by it today, tomorrow, every day on Sunday. I don't have credibility because I called out Ukraine. Oh, that's right, I was right. Or the elections. So I'm going to start this much the way I feel right now. And I didn't really put this up yet, and it's not even a part of our profile. I don't think it is anyway. Let me check to make sure they didn't. Maybe they did. They could have surprised me and just thrown it in there. Let me see if I can find this little bugger. Where are we at here? Do we have it in there? Do we have the thing in there about Dominion? Do we have that? Do we have the Dominion tweet in there? We don't. All right, well, while I'm doing that, everybody just hit the share button. If you're on X, hit the share button. If you're Eric Coomer, hit the share button and pray for your own salvation, huh? Yeah. Can you grab that for real quick? So Coomer's attorney sent this whole thing over, and they've gone with this narrative that they've largely created in the public. They are the ones that created it with New York Times. They're the ones that created it with, that there is no proof, there is no proof, there is no proof. And in large part, the CIA ran with that. The CIA is deathly afraid of me. Why? Because Eric Coomer was never meant to be exposed. And if he didn't have such a big mouth and get on Antifa calls, he probably wouldn't have. We'd probably be talking about a guy out of all of these different people. We wouldn't be talking about the adjudication process or the different patents that he owned. We wouldn't even know who he is. And in large part, I don't think we would have gotten to the bottom of all the stuff that's been happening with elections across the country. Now, I'm not going to take credit for it because Eric Coomer played his part. But I will say this. I put this up. Dominion voting systems exposed by Serbian leaders implicates the CIA. I was right, continue to be right. Eric Coomer is the cog to the wheel. It is time for this charade to be torn apart at POTUS. It is time we take them down. This is a 1 hour post. We're going to post it on all the different socials. And if you get a chance, it'll probably be on a couple of, behind a couple of things. We'll put it on the Substack and everything else, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. Here's the bottom line. The coders in Serbia that worked directly hand in hand with John Polis of Dominion and Eric Coomer and many others, they've come forward. And in the time that all of this is done, there's been collected information and affidavits by Serbian leaders that have talked about the CIA being involved in stealing the American dream from 300 million people. These people are treasonous traitors, and they get to hide behind the fact that they're the CIA. Now, I'm talking specifically about a couple people that during 2020, one of them, his name is Sam Faddis, flew out to Colorado and met with me. And he went back and he says, well, at a minimum, he's embellishing. Now, so let me just want to put this in perspective for you, because the guy works for the CIA. This guy, Sam Faddis, CIA guy, was sent out here by Sidney Powell. Now, Sidney Powell got on TV and said that there was a recording of Eric Coomer and is the one that started the whole, well, where's the recording? Where's the recording? Knowing that there never was a recording. So I think I'm putting together all the pieces here. Like, I just don't give a shit about anybody in this entire movement except for President Trump and a few people that have actually shown themselves to be good people. But everyone else just kind of, you see them coming together. I saw Bannon come together with Faddis. He was on the show just a couple weeks ago. I go, that checks, that makes sense. And I remember distinctly in January when I was in Washington, the bloodthirst and the people that were there to create as much chaos as possible. They've created, and they have enough people in this mix that the right and the left are both a bunch of retards. In large part creating as much chaos as they possibly can. But this guy, Sam Faddis, flew out here, met with me, got irritated when I said, what else do you want to know? He goes, well, tell me more. I was like, there's nothing more to tell you. What else do you want me to say to you? And he goes, well, you know, and he did this thing. And I got irritated, and I was like, well, then just piss off. I said it a little more harshly. And he got irritated with someone else that he had sitting over on the other side. And he said, at a minimum, he's embellishing it. And literally, almost immediately, Sidney Powell comes out and says, oh, we have this recording of Eric Coomer, knowing that she didn't. And then had to backtrack on that. But that created the firestorm, and that created the open door for the media to say, oh yeah, where's the recording? So I just want you to understand that when I put the stuff up about Dominion and Serbia, I didn't know any of this. When I wrote that report, when I built that model, I didn't have any of the audits, none of them. So how was I able to predict the outcome of the Georgia runoff election? Oh, that's right, I don't have credibility. I did it because I am clairvoyant. So I have no credibility, but I'm clairvoyant, and you have an entire op being run on the right side that basically is creating as much chaos as possible, that pushed President Trump in 2020 and 2021 not to pull the lever to say, all right, let's get to the bottom of this fraud. Now he's doing it now, as I said yesterday when we talked about Venezuela. I'm amazed. I'm amazed by just the sheer amount of foolery that we have going on right now. Sorry, I got signed out. Let me get signed back in here. There we go. So let's talk about some things today. We're going to talk about the deportation bombshells that have been coming out. We're going to talk about the invaders turning our streets into war zones. We're going to go through the unhinged leftist meltdown. Somewhere along the line, the narrative that we're all on stolen land. Somewhere on the line that no one is illegal. See, that's the new thing by the radical left. No one is illegal. And they're creating an environment where they make kids, they're puppets. So we're going to talk about it. We have teachers brainwashing children. And yet, this has pushed us to a place where we often don't say enough. We keep quiet. We don't post things about the truth. We When we get into arguments with people, 90% of them, by the way, if the people that you don't know are just bots. And by the way, if we don't even need bots, if they need bots, that means that they are not winning on the side of density. They do not have the numbers. Only 10 to 15% of our country is crazy. The rest of it is pretty sane, left and right, Democrat and Republican. But we're going to talk about this. And then we're going to have a guest come on. Let me tell you about our guest first, and then I'm going to go through a couple things, and I'm going to go ahead and bring them on. It's Captain James Fanell. He's retired. He's an Indo-Pacific security expert. He's an author. He's a founder, and he's a former director of intelligence and information operations. Nearly 30 years in naval intelligence, specialized in Indo-Pacific security and China's military threat. Served as Assistant Chief of Staff for Intelligence, U.S. 7th Fleet, and China Senior Intelligence Officer at the Office of Naval Intelligence. He was a fellow at Stanford's Hoover Institution and the Geneva Center for Security Policy. He's a founding member of the Committee on the Present Danger, which is China. This is going to be an interesting conversation about China. I want to hear this. I want to hear his thoughts on this. He's a creator of Red Star RERUN, a leading Indo-Pacific security forum tracking China's rise since 2005. I would argue it probably happened before then. But some of their economic increases certainly have come in the early 2000s. He's been a guest on Epoch Times, which we love them. So I'm gonna quickly go through a couple things, and I'm gonna bring them on. And I've got a ton of questions. And I'll probably bring in some of the election stuff into it, because obviously there are these links to all these different countries and these radicals here in our country. But let's talk about this. Tom Homan on the record for his deportation numbers. Let's go ahead and play it.
The Homeland Security Department released some data showing so far this year more than 2 million illegal aliens have been deported. Nearly 600,000 captured within the United States and expelled. 1.6 million voluntarily deported, but the administration wants to pick up that pace.
Well, first of all, the numbers are accurate. I mean, by the end of this year, by the end of December, we'll have over 600,000 removals. I looked at the numbers this morning. We're at 554,000 deportation. If you extrapolate out for 12 months, this is historic, the biggest deportation operation that we've ever seen. And so the numbers speak for themselves. Most secure border in history of the nation. As you said, record deportation operation. And let's not forget, we have found over 23,000 children, rescued many from forced labor trafficking and sex trafficking that the last administration wasn't even looking for.
100%.
So great success. Yeah. So great success by this administration. You're exactly right.
And to piggyback on that, there's a classroom right here in Denver, Colorado, in a Cherry Creek school district that had this. Let's put this up here. Let's put up this tweet. A classroom in Denver Public Schools allegedly had the anti-ICE and anti-Trump profanity written on a whiteboard. So you have teachers that are getting involved in things. It says no one is illegal on stolen land, F ICE and Trump. This is what we have as far as teachers. We have social warriors that are demented, that would rather see a pride flag up in the school than see the American flag up in the school. And these kids wonder why, when they get out of school, they can read at a sub 8th grade reading level, and that there's no opportunities waiting for them. Now it's Denver, which means that you don't have United Airlines, you don't have anyone trying to recruit these kids to be anything other than poor social warriors that expect the world to give them stuff for free. That's what's happening. And they reached out, by the way. They reached out to the district, but they refused to even talk about it. So I want to show you this. This is, I'm going to say the same thing I said yesterday when we had the doctor on, and we talked about the fact that, great, we're making these peace deals. Those are all great. But if we don't get the free and fair elections in our country, and we don't get this radical rot that we have inside of our country under control, this is just a speed bump to the tyranny of America. Let's go ahead and play this. This is the Prime Minister of Malaysia. President Trump is currently there, giving praise to President Trump for ending the Cambodia-Thailand Thailand war. Let's go and play it.
Thank you, President Donald J. Trump, for giving us this honor. And on behalf, of course, Malaysia and our colleagues in ASEAN, I must thank you for your concern, for your empathy, and for your commitment to support this peace deal. When I first received your call, and then urging me to do more, supporting our initiative, and you personally did call both prime ministers to urge for a speedy peace settlement, I would say a great thank you. And we, of course, admire your tenacity, your courage, because the world needs leaders who promote peace strongly. And to achieve that, you have to break some rules, as you did today. When President arrived, he asked me to join him in the car. I said that's against the security and protocol rules. And he was delighted to break the rules, and I... It was a nice ride. And we share a lot of things in common.
You know, President Trump is concentrating on these peace deals. And I just often wonder if these peace deals are meant to then give us an opportunity in our country to get to a place where we can deal with the conflict, which has to happen. But President Trump did sign the Kuala Lumpur Peace Accords. And this is on top of some peace and, some trade deals he did with Malaysia. Let's go ahead and play it.
Today, the Prime Minister and I signed a major trade deal between the United States and Malaysia, and together we took part in the signing of a historic peace agreement ending the hostilities between Cambodia and Thailand. We're calling it the Kuala Lumpur Peace Accords.
You know, again, I'm gonna say this again before we bring our guest on. There's a lot of things that I care about. I bet you most of you didn't know that Cambodia and Thailand were actually in a conflict. I'd venture to say most of you didn't know. It's probably one of the most tense borders you're going to have in the history of any country around the world. And you didn't know about it. So we're solving some problems that we do know about, some that we don't. If the media didn't tell us what was happening 3,000 miles away, we would have no clue. But that does not pale in comparison to getting someone like Tina Peters out of jail. I don't see any posts on Tina Peters getting out of jail. I see that it just kind of fell off, and now people aren't talking about the obvious. Get Tina Peters out of jail. So, you know, I walked into this today, and I'm just going to say Tina Peters needs to be free, and they need to start locking up people in our country. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and welcome our guest onto the show and get a perspective from Captain Fanell. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe, how are you? Nice to be on your show.
It's good to have you. Thanks for your service. All right, let's talk about the 500,000-pound gorilla in the world, in the room. China. Is China our biggest threat right now?
Well, I think I just heard the opening of your the show, and there's clearly we have serious domestic issues, and I agree with you. We need to get people out of jail that don't need to be in jail because they were targeted by the previous administration. There's no question about it, and it's a very serious issue, and these domestic issues need to be resolved. But in the international arena, when it comes to who's a real threat to the United States of America, it's really, Russia's got a nuclear arsenal that we have to worry about. It's big, it's serious. But the one that concerns me, and I spent my lifetime watching, is the People's Republic of China and their avowed, declaration to destroy us. And so that's what the PRC's been dedicated to since Mao stood on in front of the Forbidden City on 1 October 1949 and stood up and said, "We are the People's Republic of China." Now, he didn't have the power to do anything about it. Nobody really has until Xi, but that's their goal. And for many, many years, we did not pay attention to it. And instead, we did the opposite. We engaged with it. And that engagement has really put us back on a back foot in terms of being ready and prepared to deal with the threat. And we're not prepared And in addition to what's happened internally to our own country, it puts a lot of pressure on somebody like President Trump to be able to deal with all these issues at the same time.
Well, let's just kind of call a spade, or let's just call it what it is, right? When we're having a conversation about China, there's far-reaching implications of what they've been able to do to infiltrate U.S. policy. I mean, you can see it. It's as obvious as some of the other things that we have to worry about, which are other countries that have these pacts and these different things that are able to come and influence, our not only our foreign policy but our domestic policy. Are we? I'm actually less worried about Russia than I am China, in a lot of respects, because they would say the same thing about us. They would say we have to worry about the United States' nuclear arsenal, but the way that China's gone about this has been largely through economic reprisal. Like they've created a huge chasm for us, where we don't have the ability to, we don't have the production capabilities in our country to sustain our own environment, and they know that. So
right. Well, it goes back to when we opened up and our recognition, and Nixon and Kissinger went to China in 71, and then we recognized them in January 1st, 1979. Since that time, there was this kind of thinking between Nixon and Kissinger that if we recognized China and we opened up with them, we could use China to help us against the Soviet Union. And the Chinese allowed us to have signals intelligence bases in northern China that could monitor Soviet ballistic missile ICBM launches and tests. And so it was something that they said that we needed to do. And interestingly, I don't know if you caught it, but a week ago Sunday, when President Trump was on Maria Bartiromo's show, he actually said, hey, one of the biggest mistakes that Nixon made was opening up to China. And that's really a fundamentally different assessment than any other president since 1971. That's like, 54 years of a certain policy that both Democrats and Republicans had, which was to say, well, we had to recognize them. They're a billion people, and they helped us with China or with Russia, and so the Soviet Union, and so therefore it made sense. And Trump is now challenging that, and I thought that was very, very interesting. He's done it twice. It wasn't just with Maria. He's made another statement to Lee Smith in an article that was published here in the last couple of days on The Blaze. And so the point is, regardless of what Trump just said about Nixon, the consensus in Washington was that, hey, if we recognize China, then we can use them to help us against the Soviets, and then they'll eventually adopt our way of thinking. They'll become more like us if we engage with them. And so what we created in America, and Kissinger was the leader of this, was this engagement school. And if you go to any think tank in Washington, you just pick one, they're all the people that deal with China and the Asia security experts will all be acolytes of the Kissinger School of Engagement. They'll all tell you that engagement is beneficial to us. They did that up until Trump's first administration. And then in 2017, Trump's first administration came in and said, hold on a minute. If engagement's so good, then how come things are worse in Asia? How come China's got more carriers? Well, at that time they didn't have carriers, but more nuclear missiles, more ships, more submarines, more satellites, more everything, and they're more belligerent, and they're bullying our neighbors and allies. How come things haven't gotten better? How come they're not becoming like us? How come they're more mercantilistic? How come they're trying to defeat us with things like the Belt and Road Initiative, et cetera, et cetera? And so the first crack in the door of this idea that engagement was the best thing that we could do came during Trump's first administration. And now we're seeing in his second administration, and Biden and his team essentially went back to it. Now, yes, they maintained some of the tariffs, but for the most part, Tony Blinken and Jake Sullivan were big-time believers in engagement, and so was Joe Biden. And it's only been since Trump's come in, this second administration, where he'll say nice things about Xi, But what you are seeing right now with this trip to China or to Asia, you're seeing a president that is actually, everything he's doing is about containing and being able to not be subject to the whims and the dictates of the Chinese Communist Party. And I think folks on your show should know, I mean, we are under a very, we've got the sword of Damocles hanging over our head. We can't produce U.S. military weapons without having Chinese rare earth elements processed and given to us. There's the book that came out, RX China, in 2019-ish frame. I forget the name of Marion that wrote the book. Very important book. Talks about pharmaceuticals. People in America need medicine to live. Well, that medicine comes from China. And there's other things that we have that come from China. And so these engagers, not only did they sell out our jobs in the America, and they moved our manufacturing out of America to China and other places now, but they also made us dependent upon the People's Republic of China. And here in this last month, the trade tariffs came up, and Trump said, hey, we're gonna negotiate. You guys are gonna treat us fairly. And then the Chinese came out and said, hey, guess what? We're not going to allow you to have, America, or any other nation have rare earth elements unless we approve it. And we're going to make the judgment on whether your use of these rare earth elements are for civilian purposes or military purposes. And if they come anywhere near military, we're not going to give them to you. So China said to the United States and the rest of the world, you get no more rare earth elements, which means you cannot produce missiles, F-35s, all this stuff that we have, you're not going to get to be able to produce it. And so Trump now has gone on this Asia trip, and before he left, he met with the Prime Minister of Australia and inked a deal with the Australians for access to their rare earths, which they have in abundance. And now he's just gone to Malaysia. He's got to deal with Thailand. He's got to deal with Vietnam. And today in Japan, he's had an agreement with the Japanese for the same kind of thing. So in the space of a week and a half or 2 weeks, Trump has demonstrated that he said, I'm going to be America first, and I'm not going to be under the jackboot of the Chinese Communist Party. But it's going to be a tough situation. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to take us, some people say 18 months, but it's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 years for us to completely get off of this. And what happens in those next 2 to 3 or 5 years is really important, because China, the Communist Party, is on a timeline to achieve what they call their Great Rejuvenation. What Xi has called the Great Rejuvenation. If you go back 15 years, they talked about the Great Restoration, which is, hey, we're going to be restored to our territorial integrity. And part of our territory is Taiwan, the South China Sea, the Lower Ryukyus, border lands with India, even stuff with Russia and North Korea. But the big one is Taiwan. And so the idea that, we've heard about this 2027 and an invasion of Taiwan, when I retired 10 years ago, I was talking about the decade of concern, the decade from 2020 to 2030. Because before Xi, the previous paramount leader of China was Hu Jintao, and he had ordered the PLA to have the capability to take Taiwan as early as 2020. We're now 5 years on from that. Xi's reinforced that order several times and now 2027. But the reality is we're in a timeline where the Communist Party has to make a decision, because on 1 October 2049, the Chinese Communist Party, whoever that leader is, it won't be Xi because he'll be dead by then, but whoever's the leader of the Chinese Communist Party in 1 October 2049, that's the 100th anniversary of the People's Republic of China. And that person that stands up there is going to have to say to the people of China, the Chinese Communist Party fulfilled our promise, and we have restored the territorial integrity of China. And they would prefer to do that with economic coercion, diplomatic coercion, lawfare, information warfare, cognitive warfare. And they've been doing that. The number of countries that recognize Taiwan today compared to a decade ago is in half. and the economic power is greater. They've got problems today, but they're still economically very strong. They have the largest Navy in the world, the largest Air Force in Asia, largest strategic rocket force. They got they built their military that we paid for in large part, but they are a power now and they want their territory. And so the question is, can they get it without using military force, which they'd prefer to do, obviously. But they have prepared themselves to use military force. And the question for them is, how late can I go and not use military force and then use it and then still expect the world to come to Beijing like they did in 2008 when the world came to the Olympics in the Bird's Nest Stadium in Beijing. You remember that ceremony, right? That was, George Bush was there. The kings and queens of the world were there. After 19 years previously, when Tiananmen Square happened and the world condemned China. So in the space of 19, 20 years, the world went from condemning China as a pariah, as a barbaric regime, to beating the doors down to get tickets to attend the opening ceremony of the Olympics on 8 August 2008. So the Beijing and the Chinese Communist Party, they know the West's attention span's about 20 years. So if you take 1 October 2049 and you back it up 20 years, it's essentially 2030. So we are now in this last 5-year period where Xi and the Communist Party are going to have to make a decision. Do we use military force in the next 5, 6, 7 years and take Taiwan by military force before the United States wakes up, before they rearm themselves, before our demographics and our older population and more male population and our access to food and water and other things become critical? Do we take Taiwan and then expect that it'll all kind of calm down by 1 October 2049 and everybody will come to Beijing and celebrate the new China, the Great Rejuvenation? That's the debate that's going on in Beijing right now.
So here's the problem. I like to work the problem because we know that there's quite a few of them. We have domestic rot and we have foreign policy concerns that engulf Russia, China. Now you have BRICS. You can't ignore the fact that we have a new financial system that is brewing. And now you have, I think, 7 or 8 other nations that have signed up to become a part of BRICS outside of it. So you got some powerhouses out there. You have these restrictions that China is putting on rare earth metals, which, by the way, they get from pacts that they have with parts of Africa that we have relationships with as well, but they actually delivered. So we have a lot of policy and aid packages we put in play dating back 30, 40 years that we never came through on our side. Hey, we're going to give $200 million, and we never delivered. Right? We just made it look good for the news media, and then never came through with any of the effectual dollars, or at least it never got to where it was supposed to get to, right? So here's my problem. Here's the dilemma that I have. Can we even deal with the China issue if we don't get to solidifying what we have at home? Because right now we have 2 disparate environments operating in parallel. You have the left, which is operating in a way that they think that we need to go to this socialist communist environment, which realigns ourselves with China. If that happens, we don't have China as an enemy anymore. I don't think we have Russia as an enemy. We have one global environment, right? That they seem to be the head of. That's one kind of, wrap it up. And then the other side, it's a return to traditional ethos of our country that President Trump is pushing on. But yet all the mechanisms in our country favor the left. So how do we stop all of this without dealing with treason, without dealing with the sedition, without dealing with the massive numbers of people that are owned in our country by elements that are foreign? How do we square it?
Yeah, you broke up a bit there, but I think I got the question, which is, we have to deal with the problems that you elucidated internally. We cannot ignore those. And so in the military realm where I lived, what I saw from the Secretary of War in Norfolk there a couple of weeks ago and the president, which was basically a statement that we have to restore the warfighting ethos of the U.S. military. And to the extent that this administration's doing it in that arena, the defense or the War Department, we need to do the same in the rest of the country. We need to hold people account. The people that forced us to take the jab, that lied to us, that told us it would work, that it didn't, told us to wear masks that had no effect, told us to social distance, allowed bars and strip clubs to stay open, but closed our churches. All those people that did that, they did it under the guise of the rule of law. They need to be held to account under the guise of, not under the guise, but under the rule of law. So there's no question that needs to be taken care of. And I would say in the area where we've had, influencers from China, we need to have an accounting of who's in our defense establishment, who's in our foreign policy elite circles that are being funded by the Chinese Communist Party. And it won't be a direct fund. That's the hard part of this. None of them are getting paid directly from a Chinese Communist Party bank account. It's all coming through second, third, and fourth parties, washed through, but it's all understood that these people are going to push engagement and push support for the Chinese Communist Party. So we have to take care of our internal rot. I had cancer when I was a young officer. I was an ensign and a lieutenant JG. I spent a year in a hospital. I had a tumor the size of a grapefruit in my abdomen. And if you've ever had anything like that, you know that that's your all-consuming focus, is that you got a tumor inside of you and you got to do something about it. So you take chemotherapy, you have radiation, you have a surgery, but you have to get that tumor out or you'll die. And so we are in a similar situation. We have a cancer inside of America, and you can call it wokeism, progressivism, it's communism, it's Marxism, it's Leninism, and it's infiltrated our country, and we have to remove it. And we have to hold these people to account. We should do it by the rule of law. We should do it by the constitutional processes that we have in place, but we should not defer if those processes, like, for instance, right now, we're not funding the government. Why not? Well, because we have a rule in the Senate that says we can have a filibuster unless we can't get 60 votes because there's some rule. Well, change that rule when it comes to funding the government, if we need to. I mean, I think we need to discuss what we're funding, but the point is there are ways to do this that are legal and just, and we don't have to be as evil as the other side is in the way they act and the way they twist and turn the law. We don't have to do that. We can be straight up and truthful, but we need to hold people account. We need to get our border secure. The president has done that. We need to deport people that are illegally here. We need to stop crime. We need to not allow, Antifa and BLM and these other organizations to run rampant through our cities. It's just not acceptable. They won't allow it if they won't allow regular Americans that are patriotic to walk through Seattle or Portland or Los Angeles and hold the American flag without abusing them. Why would we allow them to, dox ICE agents or shoot people or, firebomb federal buildings or whatever it is? We have to hold people accountable, but it has to be done concurrently with dealing with this outside problem, because the other problem on the outside isn't going to go away. China's not going to sit still and let us get our house in order until they make a move.
Let me know if you miss any part of the question that I'm asking you. But we're talking about what's happening with China. Do we need to be looking at this as an Asia Pacific problem or as a China problem? Because obviously you talked about Taiwan, you talked about some of the things that are even happening in Hong Kong, settling up issues that we had in Cambodia and Thailand. Is this a holistic issue, or do you think there's any deals that are being made on the other side in some other Asian countries with China that potentially could leave us out?
there's a term that they've been using and since I retired called the Indo-Pacific. And so there's an assessment, or not an assessment, a view that because of our relative strength compared to China and their growing power and our kind of stasis, if you will, our inability to grow our military in the Pacific and our other power centers, that we need our alliance structure. And so it's always been that way, but there's more focus now on this alliance idea. So you have a thing called the Quad, which is US, Japan, Australia, and India. And that was, brought in around 2007. It went dormant under Obama, and then Trump in his first administration reopened and energized the Quad. So our four navies work together pretty closely, which is important because when you combine all of our navies together, if we have interoperability, then we can, provide a better deterrent force against the PRC, and in a shooting war, we may have a better chance. You had this recent thing called the AUKUS, the Australia, UK, US agreement, which has been focused on or got a lot of attention for the nuclear submarines that we're going to try to sell to Australia. There's a lot of concern about that because of our own ship and submarine building infrastructure in America has been decimated in the last 50 years. And so can we provide Australia those submarines in the course of time while also meeting our needs for our requirements in the Pacific and around the globe? A lot of concern about that. AUKUS also includes other things, cyber. It includes things about hypersonics and some other intelligence sharing related items. So, but it's an idea that we're partnering with these three nations. We have other agreements, the trilateral agreements with Japan and South Korea. And so there's all these interlocking kind of agreements. There is no Asian NATO. Some people have argued for an Asian kind of NATO. We have after World War II, we had the Atlantic Charter. Some colleagues of mine have recommended that we have a Pacific Charter. And I'm not against all of that, but I am also more inclined to be with President Trump, which is America first. Why can't we do this? And the reason we can't do it is because for the last 40 years, since we went into this engagement mode with China, and since the wall came down in the Soviet Union, we kind of said, hey, we don't have to do some of these things that we did after World War II to maintain our national security vis-a-vis the Soviets or any other emerging threat. And so what happened was we decimated certain things while we were engaged in wars in the Middle East for 35 years. So throughout my career, I was a Pacific Fleet sailor, while my Navy was headlong and head over heels in love with being involved with the Middle East. At one point, we had a chief of naval operations that was proud that he had more sailors ashore in the CENTCOM area of responsibility than he did have sailors afloat in the same region. And so what happened is we allowed this idea that we needed to have a Navy, a strong Navy, we allowed it to atrophy. When I got commissioned in August of 1986, we had almost 600 ships in the U.S. Navy. Today we have just around 290. So we cut our Navy in half over 30 years, and the Chinese doubled theirs in a 10, 15-year period. So, and the fight in the Pacific is not like anything in the CENTCOM AOR. It's going to be a naval engagement. It's going to be a naval and air fight, and there'll be missiles and things of that nature. But we're talking about vast expanses of water. People don't really comprehend the size of the Pacific Ocean. But if you take 17 continental United States, from California to New York, you can put 17 of those continental United States inside the Pacific Ocean. It's massive. It takes a couple of weeks to get from San Diego into the area around Guam or Japan. So It's called the tyranny of distance. And so we need platforms, we need ships to be able to deal with China. But right now we have these same people that were the engagers. They're also the same people that are influencing our national security policy. And for the last 20 years or so, people have kind of gone into this idea that, well, it's inevitable that China's rising and we're kind of on decline. And so we need to manage our decline, just like the Brits had to manage their decline after World War II as they declined and we rose, the United States. And that's largely been the mindset in Washington to deal with this problem. And I have never been accepting of that. I've been an outspoken critic of that. And I was very, very pleased to see the president down off Norfolk going aboard the Bush and recognizing the importance of naval power. America was founded not just as a land power. We recognized, and our founders recognized, we need both a land capability, a military, an army, but we also needed a navy. And it was written into our Constitution. The Navy and the Army were written in. And so why these experts for the last 35 years didn't think we needed a Navy and just allowed it to be decimated and gutted is beyond explanation. And there are explanations, but it's beyond acceptable. The explanations we can talk about, but the reality is we have let our Navy go, and we are not deterring the People's Republic of China. And the results of that weakness are what we are seeing as they threaten our allies in the Philippines, as they daily now surround Taiwan, as they threaten our allies in Japan, but more importantly, as they threaten America's existence by pushing us out of the Pacific, whether physically with kinetic force or non-kinetic.
All right, so
a lot of people, go ahead.
Let's talk about a couple countries that I think we have to pay attention to, right? One, Japan faces the same issue with mass assimilation to their society right now. Their immigration rate right now in Japan is absolutely off the charts. There are only 3 countries in the world which do not have mass assimilation of others coming in. India, Russia, 4. Russia, China, and Poland. That's it. Those are the only 4 countries that are not seeing mass migration issues. Even if you talk about Africa, you have people that are migrating from one African nation to the other, and as if they have porous borders, right? And in large part, you have Chinese influences, which are taking over the entire continent of Africa. You have 4. You have 4 countries that are not facing a degradation of just their ethos as a nation. United States, we've been overrun by millions of illegals. Why is it that China is not, do you think China is pressing the buttons to get this to happen in other nations? I mean,
no question about it. I lived in Japan for 4 years over 2 different tours. And Japan was a homogenous society. It was a very peaceful society. It was a very safe place, very pro-America, and very homogenous. And the global elites, I'll use that phrase, and China was pushing this, was they didn't like it.
Right.
They don't like it. And so they weaseled their way in. And that's one of the issues that kept and basically forced the Japanese government to pick a new prime minister. And we'll see how Prime Minister Takaichi does with trying to restore that homogeneity inside Japan if they can remove some of these foreign influence. I think it's going to be a very task.
And I'm talking about from all different countries. I mean, Japan looks like a country that is lost. It looks like the UK.
Well, I have friends still in Japan. I'm not sure it's quite that bad at this point, but it's heading there. I don't disagree with that. And so the question, and you're right, it's not Chinese only. I mean, when I go back to when I lived there, the big threat was the Chosen, the North Korean infiltration. Right. So there was a great concern in Japan about North Korean criminal elements coming into Japan. That was 50 years ago.
Well, and the crime rate in the last 10 years has gone up almost exponentially.
Right, it's crazy. And China is definitely behind it because China is involved with running the United Nations, and the United Nations agenda is to have mass migration. I live in Switzerland right now. My wife is Swiss. 10 years ago, I moved here when I retired. When I moved here 10 years ago, that's when Merkel opened up Germany. And all of a sudden, we started seeing the influx of Syrian refugees, quote unquote refugees, into Switzerland. And now, 10 years later, Switzerland is a country I can't recognize. I used to walk down our main street, and the only language I heard was Swiss German. Today, when I walk down that same main street, I don't hear Swiss German. I only hear foreign languages, all kinds of foreign languages. So there's an agenda to make mass migration across the globe.
Okay,
to
so
make,
then I
make
mean,
one world government. There's no question about it.
So, Captain, I've got to come back to this right now. How do we fight against it? We see it happening in real time in the United States and in other nations around the world. And you know, we said we need to do this using the rule of law. Obviously, Tom Homan is doing everything he can to expel those people that are here illegally. But we already have a cultural abyss that's happening in the United States. It's like it's gone too far. Is there? I mean, do we have to expel 20 million people and set new standards in the United States, or is this going to get to the place where it gets hot? Because I don't see it not getting hot based on what I'm seeing.
It looks like it's going to get hot. I mean, that's what it seems like. However, we need to do what we can where we can. So that means regular Americans like you and I have to be engaged. We have to talk to our children. We have to get out and stand up and get involved with every facet of our civil society, whether it's our school board or local town hall or whatever it is. We have to stand up and say, that's not right. We're not going to accept this. The idea that we're going to accept men playing in women's sports or men walking into women's bathrooms or vice versa, for that matter. We have to say, no, that's not right. We know what is right. We know what is wrong. The people that know what is right have to stand up and speak up and say, I'm not going to accept that. And then they have to be prepared for the pushback, because the left has gotten their talons so far into our flesh, they're just not going to give up. So there's going to be pushback, and we're seeing it in these places like Portland and Seattle and Chicago and where else. But I don't, I like to use a biblical analogy. If you remember the story of Lot and Abraham and Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And God was going to wipe out Sodom and Gomorrah, and Lot or Abraham went to God and said, hey, if there's, this many people there, please don't destroy it. And he went down the list until there was like nobody. We have to do that. We have to keep fighting for every person. We can't just say we're going to have an open civil war. That's not what we stand for in the first place. We have our country. We have a constitution. We have a declaration. We have almost 250 years of proven success, but we need to sustain that, and we need to not roll over. And that means old guys, old women, young women. We need to stand up and say this is wrong. And so we have examples of it in our country. I think of Riley Gaines standing up and saying, I'm not going to accept swimming against a man. I'm not going to do it. We need more people like that. And it comes with a cost. You're going to be ostracized. You're going to be ignored. I mean, I was in the naval intelligence community, a respected person in that level. But once you get painted with a brush as a radical, or at that time, just speaking out against China was bad enough. You shouldn't talk ill of China. We were supposed to not provoke China. That was the unwritten rule of the Obama administration. Do not provoke China, because that's the most important relationship we have, and so we have to accommodate them and appease them. And that's what we did for 35 years, and look what it's brought us. External and internal threats.
Okay, I'm going to come back to something in the U.S. soil. Let's talk about domestic policy. China, all these other nations want to come in and destroy what we're having going on in our country. We've accepted the fact there's this globalist agenda. We can see it as clear as day right in front of us. We see that the elections are largely fabricated and that people have been selected, not elected. Our judiciary is rotted to the core. You don't have to agree with anything I'm saying, but you can stop me anytime if you don't. Judiciary is completely rotted. The legislators have never asked the people what they want. They bark at the people and tell them what the people want, even though they don't want it. You have a president that basically can't even get the support of his own Republicans. The Democrats shut down the government and they want to blame President Trump. Make it make sense. You know, how do we fix any of this? How do we fix any of this if we cannot get to a place?
Go ahead.
If we can't get to a place where the ridiculous does not have a voice. I mean, they're grooming children, for God's sakes. They're literally doing stuff all over the country to do crazy. There's a reason why you went to Switzerland. You thought you could escape the madness, only to find out the madness ended up on your doorstep. So now that we're looking at this, you know, just as clear as day, right in front of us, how do we deal with this? If we don't start, I mean, I'm just gonna say it, throwing people in prison, like Matt, just line them 50,000 of them.
No, I'm not sure about that part of it. There's no question that people need to be held to account. I think what I would say is I look at strategic trend lines. And so the trend line has been very negative, as you've described. We've had an unraveling of civil society. We've had craziness with immigration and all these crazy societal things. But on the other hand, we elected a guy, even though he got, you know, I believe he got robbed in 2020. But the way the fates worked is that he didn't get into the job and he couldn't carry on for 4 years. And now he got reelected again in 24. And that guy now is doing a lot of things different than he did in his first administration. He's got people around him that are trustworthy to the extent that he didn't have in the first administration. And the first administration was against the trend line of the last 30, 40 years of Republicans, Democrats in many ways. So he's now back in and he's responsive to the people. Remember this thing with the Epstein files. He came out in that cabinet meeting and said, what are we talking about this for? And it exploded, right? Everybody said, what do you mean, what are we talking about it for? You're the guys that told us it was important when you ran for office. You're the guys that told us you had the list. All this stuff. And what happened? They started releasing stuff. Is it everything? No. But is it a recognition that this guy actually listens to the people, unlike any other administration in my lifetime, except for maybe Reagan, which was a different dynamic in a different era. But Trump at least has this idea that he understands what the people are saying and what they want, and he's trying to respond to it. He's not perfect, but he has that sense about him. And I think that should tell us as citizens that believe in this republic that, hey, if we want to see change, we can't just give up and throw our hands up and expect that there's going to be somebody right in that's going to arrest everybody, that we have to speak up and get organized. The left's been organized since the Vietnam War, you know? Saul Alinsky, rules for radicals. We need our rules for patriots. We need rules that say this is how patriots operate, and we do. It's called the Constitution. It's called the Bill of Rights. But it means that we have to be engaged. We have to actually engage in our civil process, in our government process. We have to get off our couch. You know, we can't watch sports all the time and all those things that we're finding out are rigged anyway, like this NBA scandal. So we need to say what's important. If you think that the future of America is important, the future of your children and grandchildren are important, then you've got to stop, you know, watching the sports or doing other things. You got to get engaged. And that means you have to make hard decisions, and you're going to get depressed, like you are a bit, I think, about how it seems so bleak.
Well, I don't. Hold on a second. I don't think it's bleak at all. I think President Trump is doing the things that he wants to do, but it's always good to hear experts and what they think as related to kind of what we're seeing. Like the public is getting the feeling that something bad is about to happen and it's going to turn kinetic, right? The public is feeling that, right? So I would say that I believe that we're down in Venezuela because we're going to beat the living crap out of them until they beg for us to stop. And then he's going to say, give up the people that stole my elections in the United States for the last 2 decades. Like I believe that's what President Trump is doing. I believe that he already knows that he has a half-rotted cabinet, and that some of his cabinet is really good. Others are just useful idiots that, frankly, are standing in the way of progress, just like they did in 17. I think he can see it clearly, right? But it's interesting to hear from both a medical perspective, because we had a doctor on yesterday that talked about the fact that I don't know how you deal with this without it going kinetic, and then I want to hear the military perspective of, you know, can we get there without it going kinetic? We both hope that it doesn't go that way, but it looks that way.
Right, and oh, by the way, the president is, you know, told you know, when he went to Quantico after Hegseth gave his speech, the president said, "Hey, guess what? You're going to learn how to do your job in America," and that obviously the left got very upset about that. They somehow forgot that the oath that we swear to the Constitution says we defend the country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So if we have domestic enemies, we have to deal with them. We'd prefer not to deal with American soldiers against our own citizens, but there may come a time when we have American citizens that are in violation of the law and are trying to destroy the republic. And you know, we've had that once before. It was called the Civil War. We don't want to go there. It was very deadly. So if we can avoid it by doing the things I've kind of tried to allude to, that's better. But if we get to the point where we have to, then we'll have to deal with it as it comes. But I would just, you know, most people that are listening aren't in the military, probably. Maybe they are. I presume they're not active duty. So the question is, for what are the people that are listening, what can they do? And so they have to, you know, as you said, the president can see it. Well, we need to see it too. We need to see what's right, what's wrong, and we need to call out. If we think that they're doing something, or there's somebody in the cabinet we think is useless or is counterproductive. But I have to say, you know, just like on this trip to Asia right now, you know, there was a lot of talk in the campaign last year about Japan, and it seemed to be this kind of distrust of Japan and this comments about Japan. And I was a little bit taken aback because of my longtime associations in Japan and working with the Japanese military and knowing the people of Japan and the fear that they have of what they're sitting right off their front step with the People's Republic of China. I mean, they know what's coming to them, and the Chinese remind them on a daily basis that they hate them and they want to pay back for World War II. And so the Japanese have always wondered about Americans, and then when an American president runs for office and kind of makes comments about Japan, there was a lot of concern amongst some of us about what's going to happen when the president goes to Japan. And I have to say, I watched today every little thing that he did, and it was masterful. He not only was saying the right things and doing the right things, but it was from the heart, it was from his head, and it was for America. But it was to say, hey, Japan and America, we share the same concern. And when China goes on the warpath kinetically, we're both going to get it. And so we need to work together. And he got that across. And fortunately, he has a prime minister in Japan now that seems to be somebody that could be his, to, you know, use the Reagan analogy, she could be the Thatcher to Trump, she could be like, Takaichi could be like Thatcher was to Reagan. And I hope that's true. But the point is, I saw something from President Trump in the last 72 hours that showed that this guy is, he's incredible in his ability to assimilate and learn things from somebody that had no experience in this arena, you know, in a day-to-day basis. He was in another world, you know, he was in building and all that. Yeah, he had a first administration, but his first administration was consumed with two impeachments and traitors in his own ranks within the cabinet and the constant attacks every day, and dealing with stuff that just was incredible. And now he's got that knowledge, 4 years to think about it, and now he's hit the deck running and he's performing. And so I think there's a hope there in terms of, that's my perspective on the exterior threat. I think he's got similar insights and knowledge and understanding for the internal threats. And we're seeing him do it, like what he did was sending the National Guard to Washington, D.C. He made that happen. He used the law. He didn't break the law. That's the thing that nobody can throw at him. He has not broken the law, and he's followed the law. And when the judges say you can't do that, he said, okay, I'll find another way. But he has gotten the point across, and he's making the case to the Americans, even the people that used to hate him, are starting to see, hey, what this guy did brought us safety in Washington, D.C. It's not dangerous anymore. I can walk the streets. I'm not going to get shot. I'm not going to get robbed. I'm not going to get raped. And he's making that case, and it's taking some time, but it's coming. And where these left blue states refuse to accept the offers, we're going to see pushback in those areas, and regular citizens are going to start coming out against these leftist, progressive Marxists, I think. That's the hope that I have, and we need to help them along. We need to push them along and show them that this is the better way. This is the more secure way. This is the American way.
Well, I mean, you know, when we sit here and have a conversation about what President Trump has done, and hey, I'll find a new way. What I think we need to emphasize is the fact that President Trump has been overturned by judges to say you're not allowed to do this, and as it goes up the ladder, the Supreme Court has had to step in almost 24 times to say no, this is what you're saying is not right. So there's a recognition that no matter where you turn, President Trump is getting blocked by judges who frankly are acting like they're the kings. And these are rotted judges, and there's so many of them that, you know, we're in an active coup right now. We're in the middle of an active coup. Like, this coup has been going on for a long time. They've built up density, and just like sleeper cells, they exploded during 2020 when there was this massive amount of chaos. So, you know, I mean, I totally agree with you that, you know, we need to stay within the confines of the law, and President Trump has done a good job doing that. But no matter what he does, you have the radical left saying that he's breaking the law. So when you get to the place where every time you turn around, you have public trust that's being eroded by a mainstream media and paid agitators that are causing all of this, at some point, the tipping point can't come. You can't get there because they keep raising the bar or moving the goalposts. And so you're just, you know, you're diluting some of the work that President Trump is doing. It works overseas because they're deathly afraid of President Trump. I mean, he dropped a MOB on the middle of Iran. He's not afraid of anything, right? But in the United States, we keep we keep trying to handle it with kid gloves. But we have a massive problem in our country with demons, devils, people that would do harm to the people. I don't see any other way for President Trump to do this than to declare, man, I hate to say this out loud, not declare martial law. Maybe I am saying declare martial law, but declare something of the recognition that here's all the stuff that they're doing and they're done. The only way to get rid of it is to arrest this governor, arrest this governor, arrest this mayor for sedition, for allowing, you know, the American people to become victims of foreign invaders. I don't know. I would do it differently.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, and I understand your intent and your heart on that. But I would also say we're getting to the point now where it's not just Trump, it's the rest of civil society. You can call it MAGA, you can call it whatever you want, but it's this group of Americans that recognize, hey, if we don't start enforcing the rules and the laws to maintain the system that we've built and had for 200 years, then when they come back into power, they're not going to just assassinate President Trump. They're going to throw us all in jail. They're going to destroy our lives, and we're going to be done for. And so I think what's happened in this last 8-9 months is the rhinos, the GOP and the Congress, which not all are rhinos, I'm sure, but I think
there's a lot of them.
A lot of them. Yeah, and they have like acted like, well, we're a separate group, and we'll have our power base. And I think Trump's finally gotten through their thick skulls to a degree. Hey, you're not a separate group that's going to be standing alone. when the Mandami takes over and runs for president and institutes Sharia law or communism. They're going to throw you in jail too. So this idea that you're not going to do, for instance, why did the Congress go into recess for so long to not allow the president to put in recess judge appointments?
Why not?
I mean, it's insane. That's a legal thing to do. They
Why
could have
didn't they
done
do
that.
it? Why didn't they do it?
Right. They didn't do it because they didn't feel the pressure from us to say, hey, we elect you. We want you to do this so that the president can get about doing what we elected him to do. And there we're like, well, if we do that, then we give up our power to the president. And I think they're finally starting to realize we better give it up to him, because if we don't give it up to him and we don't advance what the American people want, then the left, by their own admission, is going to come and destroy us. Just like the Chinese Communist Party said, we're going to come and destroy you. So they told us that.
So what you said is really interesting, because it's not just the judge appointments. It's not even, that's actually the—
Well, it's
the
cabinet
least
and all these other things and government officials, yes.
It's ambassadors. It's ambassadors to other countries. It's people that sit inside the embassy. And there's over 60 of them. There's over 60 right now, Biden appointed ambassadors that, and this is the other problem that I have with his cabinet. Marco Rubio, they all put in their resignations, right? And he didn't accept them. He didn't accept them. Why? And why did both the Democrats and the Republicans 100% say, yeah, we like Marco Rubio? I mean, it should have been a red flag. President Trump should be like, just kidding, you're out, right?
He's done some good things. He shut down USAID. He shut down some other, stuff that was not necessary. So he's making changes.
Yeah,
I don't know. I cannot explain why you would keep any person from the previous administration in the federal government. Not one person that was appointed by Joseph Biden or his regime, because he didn't do it. Whoever appointed him in that previous administration, I would never have them and allow them to stay in, even if the position went empty and I had to use a charge d'affaires. That's just not acceptable. So, but the larger point, or it's not larger, but let's get back to the rhinos in the Congress. All they have to do is say, hey, we're out of session completely, and the president can start filling those positions. Why didn't they do that? Why do we still have this filibuster when we can have a continuing resolution? We're just a few days away. Today's what, the 28th of October. So in 3 days, the people are not going to get paid in the U.S. military. People that are at sea right now, people that are overseas, their lives are on the line. We just saw two aircraft crash off the USS Nimitz in the South China Sea this week. Okay? Yeah. It's a deadly business just being at sea in peacetime. So we're asking people to put their lives on the line for the country, and we're not going to pay them because John Thune doesn't want to call the Senate and say we're out of session completely, and either does the Speaker of the House, so that the president can put these people in and keep this government running. So there are issues there, and we need to put heat on them as well. It's not just one guy. It's got to be all of them that say they believe in the principles of the Republican Party and what it stands for, which is for the country. And if we're not going to stand up for it, then they need to be primary, and they need to be removed. But that means the people of their cities and their states and counties all have to get off the couch, get off the Game Boy or whatever they're doing, and vote. And we're not doing it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Captain, thanks for coming on with us. How do people follow you? I know you have a book out, so we need to probably plug that here real quick.
We wrote a book last year. My co-author, Dr. Brad Thayer, and I wrote a book. It's right there over my shoulder. Embracing Communist China, America's Greatest Strategic Failure. And it's been out for a year. And it's really, if you're interested in what it is that both Republican and Democrats did to embrace Communist China and Wall Street, and the military and our State Department, we talk about that. And it's basically boils down to three fundamental things. We have hubris. We were hubris about our strength as a nation. We thought we could just didn't have to worry about the Chinese after the Soviet, the wall came down and all that, and the end of communism, Francis Fukuyama's, the end of history. We thought we were in control. We didn't have to worry about anything. Then we had greed. We have people inside our own system that took money from China and advanced their careers. And we could, there's names in the book and things of that nature. And then thirdly, we have to give the Chinese Communist Party a bit of credit. Deng Xiaoping had a strategy on how to, as he said, bide their time and hide their weaknesses, and they infiltrated the United States. They knew our weaknesses better than we did, and they were able to play them off and have guys like Kissinger and all of his acolytes promote engagement with China for the last 35 years. And it was successful, and they did a good job of it. And now we're in the position we're in. And we, if you understand that, then you can understand why we need to do something about it. And so that's really the purpose of the book.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to read it, and then I'll have you back on. We'll talk about it. I'm deep in the process. I have a stack of books now. It looks like it's like a mountain. I keep having people on. But I'm getting through them, and I'll get through them pretty quick. I read a book a week on average, so we'll get you back on. But I do want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for the work that you've done. I'm sorry that you're over in Switzerland. We could sure use you fighting over here. And, keep up the good fight. And I look forward to having you on again.
Yeah, my wife is Swiss. She married me, and she followed me around the Pacific for 30 years. And when I retired, we came here to take care of her mom. And then her mom passed right in the beginning of COVID, not from COVID, but at the beginning of it. And we just kind of got stuck here. And we've kind of been here since the COVID lockdowns. And but I am an American 100%. I only have one passport, and I eat, sleep, and breathe America 24/7. So I'm not over there physically, but my mind and my body and soul, or my soul and my mind, are there.
Well, I tell you what, you put 30 years of service in, so I want to thank you for that. And we have an obligation as Americans to continue to fight all the way to the bitter end. And so I know that you'll be doing that as well.
I pray for America, and I pray that we don't forget the kind of sacrifices that people really made, the people that made it in World War II and Korea and Vietnam, to keep and others since then, and even in the Middle East, that people that died for this nation to keep it free. And if you don't understand, if you Americans that are listening right now, I've lived overseas a lot of my life, and if you don't understand what it means to be an American, let me tell you, we are a unique people. We are different. We are blessed by God, by what we've had in our country, and we have a different approach to authority figures and to top-down control and to propaganda and lies. And we have always been that, as Reagan said, that shining city on the hill, and the light's almost gone out, and we need to light that fire big time. We need to have a big bonfire at the top of the hill and remind the world that we're Americans. And when we do that, the rest of the world will follow.
I agree with you fully. Thanks, brother. Thank you for coming on. God bless you.
God bless you. Thanks.
The perspective that he brought to the table, that James brought to the table, is an interesting one, because it talks about the meld. We always tend to see things from a singular standpoint, not from this multidimensional place that we live our lives. And China is one big part of this piece. And you can see what they've done inside the United States. I like to talk about domestic policy because I think it influences how we handle foreign policy. And with China, stoking the waters and doing the things that they've done in our country, it's not hard to come to the conclusion that they want to destroy the United States. But you also can't ignore what we've been able to face across the entire globe. There's 190-ish nations around the world. Of those 190 nations, there's only 4 that don't have mass migration issues. 4. And then you have other countries that you talk about apartheid in South Africa and what they've done to white people, and this anti-white mentality that's kind of leaked across the country. And where does that come from? These are things that as Americans we have to pay attention to. And I think one of the other issues that we have to pay attention to is the fact that we don't understand our own doctrine. Most people cannot tell me what it is the Fourth Amendment. What's the Fourth Amendment in the Constitution? What's the 14th Amendment? What's the 17th Amendment? What's the 18th Amendment? What's the Third Amendment? We talk about the Second Amendment. You know, you can't infringe upon someone's rights to bear arms. Talk about the First Amendment. We miss part of that as well. You have the right to free speech, also says that you have the right to assembly. And we can't even get that right because we don't spend any time studying the ethos of our country. So it's easy for people to take things from you when you do not take the time to become educated on both sides. Look, if you haven't read, The Art of War, you should read it. If you haven't read things that have to do with the radical left and their ideologies, shame on you. If you haven't read our Constitution, if you haven't studied our Constitution, then you should probably put on speed dial YouTube videos that go through each one of the amendments to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. You should understand the foundation of this country, the letters that were written by Thomas Jefferson, the things that we have related to the early foundings of this country, because there's other documents related to how we've actually been established as a country that are important. They're paramount to understand where part of our culture comes from, because a vast majority of even our systems come from British rule, still to this day. And do you know what the bar stands for? I mean, just if you even know what bar stands for, the Lawyers Guild, it's called the bar. You have to join the bar, and the pledge that you have to give when you join the bar. That should scare you enough. But we cannot establish a way where we can go back to a place where we have ethical boundaries and we stop this degradation in our country if we don't understand those things. So now I'm gonna start here. This next part of the podcast is going to get fiery. Do you believe all Muslims are bad? Do you believe that all Christians are good? Do you believe that Christians are bad? Do you believe that atheists are bad? We already know the answer for Satanists. Yes, they're all bad. Do you believe all Jews are bad? Yesterday, I told you that I was going to have a conversation about the erosion that we have in our country. 40+%, 46% in the state that I'm in, of judges are Jewish, Jew-ish. Now, these cowards hide behind Jews with the idea of anti-Semitism, you hate us, hate crimes are up. It's just not true. It's fundamentally not true. See, these demons just make it up as they go along. And you'd say, Joe, you know, it's the Jews, they own everything. Yeah, it's actually not the Jews, it's the Jew-ish. It's a cabal. It's a fraternity. It's a networking group of evil people who swallow things up collectively, and they own it all. But what if I told you that the degradation in our country is directly tied to deviancy, and that I can prove to you that these Jew-ish people own it? I can prove it to you, and that they lie. What if I could show you some of the things related to this perversion that has swallowed up our country? I'm talking 20 million people a day that are getting involved in certain aspects with just 20 million people a day that are going to places that promote deviancy. And not only do they promote deviancy, but they build it into the brains. They rot out your brain if you go to these environments on purpose. They want to destroy you. What if I told you they do it under the basis of religion? It's true. What I'm telling you is absolutely true. There's a conspiracy to destroy every part of our country. We should be out there punching these people just flat in the face. We should be tearing them to pieces. What I'm talking about is the porn industry. Now, we could tie it back to the economic, the financial industry. We could talk it back to the fact that this is going to be blocked on nearly every platform because they're all owned by Jew-ish people. From YouTube to Google, all run by people who frankly don't want me to have a voice, don't want you to have a voice. Matter of fact, they want you to be their slave. It's right out of a book of the Talmud Institute out of New York City that trains up people out of that institute to hate Christians. Hate them. Make them your useful idiots. Make them your dogs. Take from them whatever you want. Isn't that what Zuckerberg did? He stole Facebook, a DARPA project that was started by a certain group. He came in, they're like, okay, we're gonna take this idea, we're gonna meld it out here, we're gonna put it out there in the public, we're telling them, you gotta consume this. Let's start off with the Bibi Jew song. Play it.
Baby Jew, oh what a guy. Rules with an iron fist, makes the good folks cry. Bossing round the town with his ego so grand. Oppressive little prick, got the world in his hand. Hey, baby Jew, you're a thorn in our side, pushing us down, but we won't hide. Oppressive prick, your reign's gonna end. Freedom's coming, my tyrannical friend.
Yeah, Baby Jew, what a... and to the point, perfect for a quick listen or meme. Sing it with attitude.
Now, before I say anything more about this, let me just say this. Do you know who doesn't like Bibi? 90% of Israel, 90% of real Jews. Do you know who's absolutely ashamed by what Bibi's done around the world? Most of the Jewish population. You could equate Israel to Memphis, Tennessee, or Washington, D.C. in Ward 7 or Ward 8. You could. You could equate it to a country that is under siege, that is held hostage by this fraternity. So you either play ball by the Bibi Jew regime or you're out. You could today go look at just an aerial view of Gaza. And you could just go back in time and look at it, what it was 6 months ago. And you'd be hard pressed not to get the feeling, that gut feeling in your chest, that thing that tells you this just is not right. Now, at the same time, AIPAC operates and owns 99% of our politicians in Congress. But there's a difference. You know, I tell you that if we do not start differentiating between this evil synagogue of Satan and the actual Jews, we will find ourselves in the same place we were in the 1920s and the 1930s. And it's no better than basically going after any sort of race or religion. And one of the things that Captain James said when he was just on, which I found interesting, was that, and it's very true, is that the American people, call them MAGA, call them whatever you want, but it's American people. Yesterday we had people on here where we were talking about their propensity to say, hey, come, when you're done with Memphis, come to Atlanta. You got a black dude saying, get over here. And you have people in Memphis saying, thank you, President Trump. I can now walk through the store. I haven't been able to walk through the store in 20 years. And I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding when I tell you that 99% of the people that live in this poor environment that were completely forgotten. You want to think that you feel invisible? Okay, go live in a place where there's no opportunity, no education, and absolutely zero food. Because you got animals that come through and rob Walmart blind. And do you think they only rob Walmart blind? No. They rob people that are poor in their own environment. Those people don't come out of their house after 6 o'clock. So when we talk about the degradation of society, of what's happening in the United States, I'm telling you right now, Israel is held hostage. The people of Israel are pissed. They feel like slaves too. And the only people that are holding this thing over their head right now are godless people who really don't care and give a shit about any other part of the country or the world for that matter. They're going to capture America by doing one thing, pushing you to a place of perversion. And you can see it every day. All of the LGBTQI, whatever you want to call it, organizations that are out there that are promoting cutting off penises and hurting children and putting sexualized books in schools are all run by Jews. 100%. And they're the fake Jews, by the way. They're not getting the promise. They're getting the curse. Because I do want to tell you something else. Jesus said in John, he said it very clearly, John 6:14, I think, you cannot come to the Father except through me. That's a curse, by the way, because if Jews don't accept Jesus, how are you going to get to God? That's why I know that you can see it clearly. Listen, I'm not trying to convince you that Jews are bad, because they're not. I'm trying to convince you that there is a cabal, there is a cartel so big. Charlie Kirk saw it. Stu Peters has seen it. And you could say Stu Peters is an anti-Semite. He admits he's an anti-Semite. I don't even know how you check that. Candace Owens, she an anti-Semite? Is she out there attacking? No, she's attacking rabbis that use the word rabbi, ordained to a position to represent God to the people, whose entire business is dildos. You think that's a rabbi? Oh, I'm not done yet. I want you to see this. This is a clip of who runs the world. And I want you to pay attention to what happened when he started talking about who runs the world. I'm not a self-loathing individual. I don't want any harm to come to any country. But let's be honest where we are right now. We are in a place right now where we don't have a country. We have been captured, and there are good people inside of President Trump's cabinet that represent that 90% of those people in Israel that want help, that are being held hostage just like the people in this country. Let's play it.
Who's in control? Who was in charge of the CDC that was controlling and telling our government to shut down small businesses and what they recommend for the mandates of the vaccines and Pfizer and all? At the time when COVID was being enacted, I'm going to read off the staff of who was in charge of this CDC. The director of the CDC was Rochelle Walensky, dual citizenship with Israel. She's a Jew. Deputy director of the CDC, Ann Shawalchik, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. CDC chief of staff, Sherry Berger, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. CDC chief medical officer, Mitchell Wolf, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. CDC director of the Washington office. This is pertinent to the topic. We're talking about COVID, right? Yeah. This is pertinent to COVID. So I love you, Jennifer. Yeah, please. So director of the CDC of the Washington office, Jeff Resnick, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. COVID czar, Jeff Zaints, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. COVID senior advisor, Andy Slavitt, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. Assistant of Health Secretary for Human Services for our country, the Assistant of Health Secretary, Rachel Levine, transgender, dual citizenship with Israel, yes, Jew.
I ask that you hold off, Christopher.
Ma'am, I'm almost done.
Mr. Wood, the chair has ruled that your comments are out of order. She's asked you to stop. The chair has...
You said Jew. There's nothing wrong with Jew. It's not derogatory. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, keep on going. Head of Pfizer vaccines, Albert Bourla, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. Pfizer chief scientist, Michael Dostik, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. Moderna chief scientist, Tal Zaks, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. BlackRock, everyone know BlackRock? BlackRock CEO, Larry Fink, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. I said we're willing to sacrifice our ego, our reputation, and our lives. Yes, ma'am, and I love you, and I appreciate your patience. BlackRock president, Rob Capt, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. The CDC chief medical officer of Johnson & Johnson, Joanne Waldstreicher, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. Chief medical officer of Merck, Michael Rosenthal, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. Head of Pfizer of the World Economic Forum, Yuval Harari, dual citizenship with Israel, Jew. And that's what I'm talking about.
Christopher, you need to stop.
Who's in control of the media? Or banks, and go on. God bless you. Thank you for your attention.
What part of that was bad? And by the way, I shouldn't have to say this. A business partner, he's a Jew. He's a God-fearing man. He's also gay. And you'd say, oh, Joe, how do you reconcile it? I accept my brother where he is, not where I want him to be. He's married to a woman, has 2 children. He is still married to that woman. So he made choices in his life to honor his relationship. How many men are in a heterosexual relationship that can't keep their penis in their pants? That cheat on their wives? This is probably the most impactful story that I've ever done. I started it yesterday, and I had to pray about this one. And I had to pray about it because I needed to understand whether or not what I was saying was going to be accepted. I'm at that place right now where I want the general public to understand, again, I'm a guy that has no credibility. No credibility. That's what they said. That's what this piece of crap that worked for me and lied and tried to tell my assistant of 10 years who knows everything about me, he sees every text message I have, sees every email that I have. I'm a very transparent person in my life. I'm transparent with you. I'm transparent with the people that work with me. I'm transparent with my assistant. I'm transparent with my wife, my children. But I have no credibility. That's what they said, no credibility. So the things I'm putting in front of you, I mean, I wouldn't listen to me because they told you not to listen to me. Matter of fact, every one of these platforms came out and said, listen, we're going to do everything we can to keep Joe Oltmann off of the airwaves. We're going to send out people who are this treasure hunter and say, oh, yeah, Joe has no credibility. Look at his notes. He has bad handwriting. We're going to have other people talk about the fact that he didn't record the Eric Coomer thing, but then we're going to stand up on stage and we're going to tell people that you have a recording so that you could open up the gates of the mainstream media to come after me. Yeah, we're going to do all that. We're going to do everything we can to set up this deal where the New York Times and others can take shots at Joe, and we can build out this entire thing where you go to Grok and they're like, oh, it's been debunked, like everything else that's been debunked about the elections. Now, we know that that's not true. And again, I don't have credibility, so I don't know why you'd listen to me. So what you're about to hear right now is coming from a person that doesn't have credibility based upon what these people are. By the way, these people have never accomplished a thing in their life. Their kids are a train wreck. Their lives are a train wreck, but they want to tell you that I have no credibility. The guy that's been married for 23 years. Yeah. No credibility. Let me go on. What's the number one problem we face in America? It's pornography. And if you think that I'm wrong, then tell me why children are being groomed, books in second grade are being written so they can be sexualized. They're getting them ready. And I want to show you something else. This is interesting, to say the least. This is a man talking about the beginning of the takeover of porn by the Jewish synagogue of Satan. Play it.
He gravitated towards the porn industry because it's like kind of the seedier cousin of the Hollywood industry, which had already been controlled by the Jews. And basically they pretty much just took it over. The godfather of the modern day porn industry, his name was Reuben Sterman, who was actually an Orthodox Jew. He owned over 200 bookstores all around the country. He's actually my godfather. What the Jews did pretty much was they revolutionized the adult industry and made it their own. So there was no space for anti-Semitism, and they basically controlled everything. But back in the 80s, the only way you could get pornography was to go through someone like Reuben Sterman, and he controlled, all of his stores and all the stores that he didn't own. They actually had to pay him a tax to carry his product. Reuben Sterman, actually, eventually he died in prison. They tried to get him from obscenity back in the 80s, which was a big thing. And it actually still is a reason of obscenity arrest today. But he eventually died in prison because of tax evasion, because he didn't want to pay taxes. Back in the 70s, the majority of the male porn performers were Jewish, and the majority of the female performers were Roman Catholic. All the business owners are pretty much Jewish, or have Jewish ties, or at some point worked for a Jew. Much founded by the Jews.
Still not convinced? Put this up. This is who owns OnlyFans? Let me run through this with you. And look, you can call me whatever you want at this point. You want to tell me that I'm anti-Semitic because I'm pointing out the obvious? These people long abandoned the Jewish people. They are slaves and in bondage the same way that we are in America. And if you think Christians and Jews are so closely related, and there's this thing called Zionists, and we should have this Judeo-Christian deal, it's not true. Look, I am deeply involved in my faith right now. Deeply. I'm going to, now it's called, it used to be RCIA, now it's called OCIA, to convert to Catholicism. I'm in that process right now. And so I am questioning everything about my faith. A lot of prayer. At the same time, I'm prepared for battle at all times. I'm well trained. I can knock the apple off your head with a 9mm straight from prone position. Boom. Who owns OnlyFans? Leonid Radvinsky. Juice. Who owns most porn sites, including Pornhub? Rabbi Solomon Freeman. Who owns Tinder? Sean Rad. Who founded Grindr? Joe Simkai. Who founded Bumble? Whitney Wolf Hurd. Jews. So when your children, by the way, I want to just put that out there. When your children are out there trying to figure out how many sex partners they can have and jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship, and people are like, oh my gosh, you know, the biggest problem that these young people are facing right now is fidelity. The biggest problem we have in our country is fidelity. All the sites for quick hookups and sex, all run by Jewish synagogue of Satan people who want to destroy the Christian values of our country. The degradation that we're on. Listen, let's just go back. Let's go back in time and look at it. Margaret Sanger, eugenics, killing off black people. Now, black people are in an environment right now where all these different NAACP, all these organizations are funded by who? Synagogue of Satan. Let's genocide an entire generation of black people. And by the way, let's get out there and use influencers like the Krappenstein brothers to say how bad it is that you have the National Guard going into Memphis, Tennessee, and Washington, D.C. And let's walk past and over the bodies of those young people who are in prison because they had PTSD so bad that it messed up their brains so bad that frankly they will never be normal again. And the children that can't go out after 6 o'clock, can't play in the yard, can't be normal, that are forced onto a computer to look at YouTube. That's if, by the way, you can have politicians that are governors that are talking about the fact that black people don't even know how to use a computer. That's actually happening. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, she's also a Jew. Only she doesn't believe in God. See, none of these people do. They go straight to the Talmud. They do this. They have an institute where they literally are training people. Go be a judge. All the gay performers, they're Jewish. They're not Jews. You'd be hard-pressed to find a God-fearing Jew that supports anything that is happening in this environment. And yet you have people in Hollywood and people all over the place that scream and yell that President Trump is a bad guy. They are literally destroying our society from within. Now, let me just show you something else. This, by the way, is not meant for everyone. So if you have children that are watching this, they should not watch this. This is 2 minutes and 32 seconds about how they promote social subversion and societal breakdowns. They promote it inside of this thing for porn. Play it.
A rabbi runs the world's biggest adult entertainment website. A rabbi. And the Zio use the control over this type of media to push social subversion and social destruction. Here's specific examples. They advertise pedo circumstances. These are above-age grown women, but they intentionally look, dress, and act underage. They do this on purpose. They know what they're doing. This is only to one specific target audience. And this roleplay even builds pedo desires in random male viewers that might not have had these thoughts and desires before. They know exactly what they're doing. They're creating the desire for underage. It's sick. And they even go so far as to advance stepdaughter fantasies. That in itself is horrible to advertise, but really, it's a disguised way for them to advance incest pedo desires. Guys, this stuff is done on purpose. And it's not the back page stuff that you have to search for. This is what pops up on the home page when you sign on and when you're scrolling around. Even the stuff you do search for, this stuff is spliced in between. They also show fantasies and promote cheating on your wife, cheating on your husband, destroy marriages, just like they're always accused of trying. This is all intentional. And then all the college kid stuff. This is what they promote college life is like. Hookup culture, experimentation, promiscuity, no morals. Stereotype it like this until it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They know exactly what they're doing. It goes further. They also have the promotion of incest, with a thin disguise under the labels of doing things to your stepsister. You know many young boys sneak on these websites to explore. You know that, and these are the fantasies that Zios promote to trick kids to thinking they have some other way to release pent-up lust. These are sick people. They know exactly what they're doing when they're pushing all this stuff. Flip through their page. These are not normal, average fantasies. These are promoted on purpose to shape desires in a bad direction. The Zios control all our media. News media, entertainment media, sitcoms. They even control Disney and adult entertainment media as well. And they find ways to use all of that to subvert us. Our society was not like this 60, 70 years ago. They do this because a weak, degenerate society with no morals and no culture is not a threat to their power and is easy to push around and manipulate. Strong cultures with high morals, you can only push them so far. You are not controlling and bullying a strong, moral, united people. This is all done for J supremacy. We must break their media monopoly, burn their subversion books just like they did in the 1930s, and save our society. Unity is victory. Resist. Protect your culture.
What are you saying? What are you saying about the things that I'm saying here right now? Jeff, you said, why allow your pride to be wounded, Joe Oltmann? It's giving them power over your attitude and perspective. Rise above it. Okay, I'm doing it because of the fact that they have created an environment where if they tell a lie enough times, people believe it. I'm not doing it. I don't have any pride associated with this. Not at all. I have told you 1,000 times, the only person that I care about, the only person I care about is what God tells me to do. That's it. I mean, even before I tell you that my wife can have absolute control over the fact that I have to respect her opinion, if God tells me to do something and my wife tells me not to do it, you better believe I'm going to do it. Because I will not turn my back on God. He has never turned his back on me. I hope that clears it up. Whew. Have you heard too much? Have I said too much? Because I'm not done yet. So the big porn site was originally controlled and founded by a guy named Bernd Bergmar. He's an Austrian Jew. It was allegedly sold in 2023, so they said, but it was never sold. As part of his other company, MindGeek, a group of what they call ethical investors. You won't believe this. You know, when you saw Liberty Vote come into play, look, you cannot be stupid. Stop being stupid. You know the thing that I hate? I hate evil. I hate people that are evil. I don't hate people that are deceived. I hate people that are evil. These people are evil. So this guy owned MindGeek, and MindGeek under his ownership grew into a global powerhouse. Billions in revenue. But intense scrutiny for hosting non-consensual content, including material linked to child exploitation and sex trafficking. What do we have a problem with in our country? They are grooming our children. They are sex trafficking. They are killing them. They are doing some sick stuff. I want to play this. This is the Pornhub secret owner revealed. And the sale that never was. It's a big shell game, kind of like our elections. There's no difference. They call themselves, by the way, I just want you to know this. They call themselves Ethical Capital. Ethical Capital Partners. Ethical Capital Partners that traffics children and women. Play 5 for a minute.
Actually, the former owner of the site who sold the company to him came forward and first revealed his name to me, and it was Bernd Bergmar. So that was the majority shareholder of the site that had hid his identity for years from the public. But he was found and exposed. He was spending part-time in Hong Kong, part-time in London. He was from Austria. And so, yeah, we understand that he lives part-time in Hong Kong, part-time in London. Other owners are in Montreal, so in Canada. That's where they're from. And
what's the guy's name? Bernd? How do you spell it?
Did I get kicked off again?
B-E-R-N-D, Bernd, and then Bergmar, B-E-R-G-M-A-I-R. And, there's this kind of farce out there right now saying that the site was actually sold to a hastily concocted private equity firm that has laughably called its name Ethical Capital Partners. But what is also released in court documents is evidence that the site wasn't actually sold. It wasn't paid for.
No, it went down again on X. Guys, if we can't figure this stuff out, everyone upstairs is going away. Just so we're clear. I'm not doing this stuff anymore. I'm not doing it. I'm sorry for all the people that just sent me stuff that said that we lost thing. Probably the most important podcast that I've done. I want you to see this. This is Ethical Partners. Ethical Capital Partners. Ethical Capital Partners. You tell me if it seems ethical. I just want you to know. I want you to tell me whether or not it seems ethical. Founded in 2022, where? Where do you think they were founded? Canada. Canada. Private equity firm best known for its acquisition of ALO, the owner of Pornhub. Now, what I'm gonna go through a little bit more. By the way, we're gonna have to clean this up on the site for X. I'm just sorry. I'm just gonna say I'm sorry to everyone. Nobody wants this to be heard. Nobody wants this to be out there, especially not the Jewish population. And for my Jewish friends, for my people that are actual Jews who love the Lord, who live their lives according to that, man, I am sorry that you got co-opted by demons and devils. I am sorry. I am sorry. I'm sorry that you have to live your life in the shadow of people that scream anti-Semitism while destroying the very fiber of every nation they touch. That's the reality. This is the truth. You can go check it out. Go check me on all this. What I'm saying is absolutely true. And I have a lot of Jewish friends. I have a lot. A lot. I coached soccer. I assisted at a Jewish day school. He'd say, Joe, oh man, which side are you on? And I just told you which side I'm on. I'm on the side that doesn't traffic women and children, degrade our society, and stand behind and say, I'm not really white either. They created this anti-white material with these white liberals who want, and most of them, by the way, are Jewish, faithless, atheist, people that would destroy you. Just saying, look at you, that have no compass for morality. These people hide behind the fact they call themselves ethical capital partners. How is it ethical? Well, let me get worse. Solomon Friedman, the owner of Pornhub. A lot of owners, by the way, of Pornhub. What if I told you that Solomon Friedman, another Jewish person, he's a criminal defense attorney. Listed owner Pornhub, he's listed the partner VP of compliance. Because that's what they do. They're a Coomer too. Eric Coomer too. He was the director of strategy and security for Dominion Voting Systems. No, he was pulling this. You're about to find out. You're about to find out. We're going to play the video, the 1 hour video we're going to clean it up. I'm going to get you a transcript of everything that happened with the Serbians. There's coders. There's all sorts of people that are in hiding right now. They're having to hide from these demons. And CIA right in the middle of it. Yep. What if I told you that Solomon Friedman, the owner of Pornhub, coaches defense attorneys of pedophiles on how to get lesser sentences for their sex offender clients? You're not going to believe it. Play it.
Parliament seems to have accepted as a basic penological principle that sentences have a general and specific deterring effect. If you look at the evidence, your mileage may vary. But in fact, maybe this is a good case study of that not working. But hey, that will get you nowhere in court.
Or we could argue that we arrived at this place because we had adopted that prior view for a long time. And So maybe we're here because the conditional sentences or the intermittent sentences that we were imposing in 2009
The good old days?
to get the job done. And maybe that plays into why we're here.
What do you do when Carrie or one of her colleagues has made this case about more than just your client, and made it about asking the court to try to stem this larger sociological tide and to be very plain about it, to use years in jail as a way of addressing that? So what you want to do is take your offender and distinguish them from these larger trends. That is to say, yes, this is happening and this evidence is not contested, but my case is different. So you want to distinguish your client on the basis of not just the number of images. That was an old game. That was, X number of images, that nets you this amount. You have to go farther than that, because as we talk about viewing the images in court, the trial judge viewing a representative sample, there are some images where if you have one of them, you'd rather have hundreds of a different type, or there are images that are just, on their own are so horrific. So you want to look really, and I say look, try to avoid looking if you can, but be able to categorize this in terms of what type of collection is this.
Let us find a way to let pedophiles back on the street. Let's create an entire environment where we poison the minds of Americans. Now, the next thing I'm gonna talk to you about is that this deviancy that's based on this Oltmann Institute, is based on these people who are not Jews, they're Jewish. These demons that exist in our culture, they are doctors, they are lawyers, they are lots and lots and lots of judges. You want to talk about institutional rot? Rotted to the core. Rotted to a place where you couldn't even recognize that they even have a soul, because they probably don't. This is what Tim Tebow had to say about a chat that was uncovered between multiple people that are sexualizing children. Play it.
I want to read one of the chats recently of some of the offenders of what they were saying. This is also filtered, so it can be a little bit more appropriate for today. One of the offenders in the chat asked what the others were into. Next man replied, he was mainly into 5 to 9-year-olds. Another said he was 60 and a very violent man, and no isn't an option for him. One of the offenders then said he has 20 terabytes of baby rape videos, and if they DM him, he would give them to him for a good price. Another offender confirmed and said he would show the others how to abuse his own kids and get away with it. Then another replied he has a daughter that he would love to share. Then the next replied, when asked if his wife knew about his abuse, the man said, heck no, it's our little secret, though I am on the lookout for others, as she is getting old now. Next responded, how old is she? The offender said, 8. That's what we're talking about here today. That's why it's so important. That's why we have to be urgent for every single one of these boys and girls.
Stolen elections have consequences. Allowing liars to stand, and instigators and people that are aligning themselves with these people, they are going to rot in an eternal hell. But while they are here, they should face the consequences. I want to show you the countries that visit Pornhub the most. This is not a secret. What's the number one country? The number one country in the world is the United States. The number two country, think of that. Macron and his husband, Macron's husband, man. France is number 2. Philippines are number 3. Ladyboys. Mexico is number 4. UK is number 5. Germany is number 6. Brazil is number 7. 8 is Italy. 9 is Japan. 10 is Canada. Spain. Poland is number 12. I mean, think about how many people visit Pornhub. It's just one site. And let me just tell you how many it is a month. You ready? 20 billion visits. They have entire data centers. You'd have an entire data centers. You have data centers that are the size of Amazon's package fulfillment data centers that run this smut through there. They make billions of dollars off people. All owned by people that want to destroy your society, destroy your relationship, destroy your family. They just might as well call it destruction hub. That are perverting and putting things out there so that stepkids will, have sex with each other, and dads can have sex with I mean, they're literally creating a social contagion, much like they did before. How is it all tied together? This is how porn and child trafficking are tied together. And this should, if you're listening to this and you visit porn sites, right? I'm going to tell you right now, you need to get on your knees and you need to stay away from those porn sites. Because here's what you're doing. You're literally giving the demon a gap, a large opening in your life. Play it.
How dark it is. They abducted the mama and these 4 kids. They took these kids to a house. They let everybody on the border know, if anybody wants in on this, this is how much it costs. This is what's going on. Contact this person. We'll come across the border and get you. They killed the infant in front of their brothers and sisters and in front of the mama. Then they tortured and murdered the mama in front of the kids. And in that terrorized, horrible state, with their dead mutilated brother and their dead mutilated mother, then these people paid big money to molest them in that state of trauma. That's how bad it is. And that is fueled, it is funded by porno. If you are a part of pornography, I'm telling you, you are a part of child trafficking. They're Americans that paid money to do that because they're addicted to pornography.
Just think about this. Just think about what you just were able to watch. Now think about the children that are in this state. Think about the infant that had to get slaughtered, the mother that was slaughtered, the others that were used as play toys. That's the reality of what we face in our own country, in the United States. Stolen elections have consequences. You want to talk about Jeffrey Epstein? But we don't want to talk about the problem. We want to talk about vaccines. We don't want to talk about what they just talked about before, which is who owns all of them. Who is the chief scientist at Moderna? Who's the chief scientist at Pfizer? Who runs Pfizer? Who's the head of CDC? Who's the head? Do you not see this? Who owns Disney? Who owns Google? Who runs Google? Who runs all these different companies? Who runs Facebook? Who's in charge at X? I mean, let's be honest about it. These are all really bad people. And I'm not talking about Elon Musk. Look, he's just trying to survive in an area where he's trying to differentiate between the bad Jews and the good Jews, or the real Jews and this fraternity of evildoers. He can see it. He said it. The difference between the good and the bad. He's basically taking his foot off the gas because, man, he thought he had arrived. He's the #1 billionaire in the world, and that he could affect change on what he could see. Not even Elon Musk could escape transgenderism with his children. Not even he could. They indoctrinated and stole the mind of one of his children. You don't think he thinks about that every day? I promise you he does. I want to tell you something. This is how you know that it's absolutely perverted to a place that, frankly, is disgusting. This is how you know that they want to destroy us and they hate you. These people hate you. They hate Christians. They hate the very foundation of our life. That's why they make up all these lies. And the lies just keep coming in. Oh, the elections are safe and secure. And I'm going to tell you this, Elon Musk, I'm telling you right now, as clear as I'm on this deal, from a guy that they say has no credibility. I mean, I built from zero. I didn't have daddy's money, mommy's money. I didn't have family. I didn't have anything like this stuff. Everything I've done on my own. And I put selling my company for a lot of money on the chopping block and was willing to give that up to stand up for free and fair elections. So you give up $1 billion, no big deal. You give up what I gave up, which is nearly 80% of what I have, and I'm still okay. Here's what I'm going to tell you, Elon. You don't change your algorithms and you don't start really looking into this election fraud stuff, it doesn't matter if you're worth $1 trillion, you're going to have to sell your soul down the river. And if that's what you want to do, so be it. But you're going to have to give up more of your kids. Because I promise you, they're the ones that are going to suffer for it. You're already an old man like me. Like we're past our prime. And the second you can realize that it doesn't matter how much more air you breathe, the better. And if you're ethical out there and you're like, I just want to live out the rest of my life and I don't want to pay attention to any of this, shame on you. It was never about you. And you're like, oh, I just want to live another 20 years. 20 years of what? Eternal misery? So you go to all the way to the very end and have a separate breath while these people do what they're doing in our communities? Remember, these are the same people that are building this narrative. And the narrative is very simple. Get behind, I mean, what's his face in Texas? Said it clearly. God blesses those that bless the Jews, not these Jews. How do you bless Pornhub? Please tell me how you bless molesting children. I want you to tell me, please. I want you also to know this. Pornhub keeps ceasing operations in every state that requires age verification. It's as if their entire business model was built on intentionally getting kids addicted. Pornhub to stop operating in Arizona over new age verification law. How do you think that they're doing this? I did an experiment and I walked through X and I tried to figure out what videos that they had that were on X. The porn on X is out of this, it's out of control. This is a tough conversation, tough deal, because I'm telling you that I'm tying it back to the same people that are sitting on the bench, that are allowing pedophiles to continue and wink, wink, nod, nod, let them out, only give them 6 months probation for molesting children, while Tina Peters rots in jail for 9.5 years. Tina Peters, who has been betrayed by more people in her own circle than I could even begin to imagine. But let's let the pedophiles out. Here's Tucker on the porn industries and the danger. Let's go ahead and play it.
Why'd you do this? Well, because so-and-so made me. Oh, stop. That's not allowed in my house. We don't allow that.
And that's what Charlie was all about.
Yes.
Charlie was all about
and
that.
So, like, if you live in a world where people in your high school class are on OnlyFans, I'm not attacking those poor people who feel they have to do that or have been misled into doing it. But the people profiting from it are more dangerous and evil than Iran. And they're certainly more of an imminent threat to your country. Are you joking? It's not even close. So let's just reorient around honesty and truth and try to create a meaningful hierarchy of concern and threat. And the number one threat that we face is people becoming bad. That's the worst thing. You can't have a good country with bad people. And all of us have participated in that bad, including me.
And by the way,
and we should say that.
You know, the pre-1945 America, the It's a Wonderful Life America, which was made, obviously, I think right around that time frame, they all understood this. Those are all called out in that film.
Because they didn't have nuclear weapons, so they couldn't tell themselves they were God.
Everyone who watched it completely understood. Tucker, I could do this for several more hours. We'll have to do that at some point. But our
and they should have talked about it for more hours. I've just taken an extra 40 minutes to talk about all this stuff. And if that's not enough, the AI founder, Sam Altman, also dual citizenship, Jew. We made ChatGPT pretty restrictive to make sure we were being careful with mental health issues. We realized we made it less useful and enjoyable to many users who had no mental health problems. But given the seriousness of the issue, we wanted to get this right. Now that we've been able to mitigate the serious mental health issues, and we have new tools, we're going to be able to safely relax the restrictions in most cases. In a few weeks, we plan on put out a new version of ChatGPT. It allows people to have personality that behaves more like what people liked about 40. We hope it'll be better. If you want your ChatGPT to respond in a very human-like way, or use a ton of emojis or act like your friend, ChatGPT should do it, but only if you want it, not because we are usage maxing. In December, we will also roll out age gating more fully as we part of our treat adult users like adult principle. We will allow even more like erotica for verified adults. I don't know what to tell you. I don't actually know what to tell you. I don't have credibility. I'm actually having a little fun with this, right? I debate people quite often. And I did see the comment, by the way, that says, Joe, you have credibility. It's in the eye of the beholder. I did see that comment, so thank you. Mr. I don't have any credibility. I want you to know that we have a problem in our country. I put up that video of a Serbian leader that have been talking to coders, have affidavits, they're doing the stuff that talked about the CIA being involved in stealing our country. I've now talked to you about how the fact that the Jewish population, the synagogue of Satan, really Satanist people altogether, want to see the demise and destruction of America while telling us that they're trying to do good. I'm going to talk about this a lot now. So they're probably going to cancel me for it. I mean, why would you not cancel me for it? You look at the things that we're dealing with right now. We have a problem. We have a massive, massive problem on our hands. And it is a group of people that have built a cabal, have built a cartel inside of our country and every other country out there, including the one that they say they represent. If you go to Israel and you ask a Jewish person on the street, a Jew, do you like Bibi? 9 out of 10 will tell you, I hate that guy. The people that won't are the ones that actually go to the Talmud Institute or that have shake, shake, nod, nod, have been designed to carry on the legacy of stealing all that is good about the Christian faith. They're all Jews, guys. They're all people who are of this guild. I call them the fake Jews, the Bibi Jews. Remember, I hate those that literally do harm to other people, that are hateful, demonic people. That's what I hate. And these people are demonic. And President Trump can see it. He sat on the plane and he's asked, do you think you'll go to heaven? And he's like, no, I don't think I've done it. I don't think I could ever do enough to get to go to heaven. That's a man that lives in turmoil. Nobody's told him the good news. And you have people like Stephen Miller. Man, I really like that guy. Why? Because I can hear it in his voice that he is conflicted, number one. He understands the problem, number two. And number three, man. I'm only bringing this up because I want to get canceled, by the way, because I don't have any credibility, so I figured I'd just put it out there so people piss on me. And yeah, we will have another show that they'll replay this, that will go all the way through. It's not anti-Semitic to point out evil for what evil is. And it's not anti-Semitic to talk about people who have designed it to destroy the Christian faith throughout the entire country. Christians are bad. And you know why they prop up Muslims? Because Muslims love shitholes. Sorry, they do. They do. They're good at living in shitholes. I didn't say all Muslims. but they're not worried about Muslims taking over anything. They're worried about white people. They're worried about Christian and Christian revivals. They're worried about those that fear God only and aren't afraid to pick up that sword. That's why they have gone into every church and they have made them these zombies and manipulated biblical verse and gone to the Catholic Church and said, oh, we got to create an alignment that keeps people very weak and pathetic. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, they're doing it in the name of being rabbis. These people are rabbis. They own all these organizations that pump porn out there, and they call themselves rabbi. It's sick. It's sick. We have a fax blast today. I'm really upset over this. I'm trying to stay calm for you. I'm trying to stay peaceful for you. But you don't think I can see it? You can't see it? And of the people that are watching this that are in like the FBI, that acts as if we have to stand as opposition to this, or if you're, what's his name? Ted Cruz? Shame on you, Cruz. You don't even know what the Constitution is. You have no idea what you're even talking about. You lack credibility and you sit in the Senate. You have no credibility. You couldn't even tell Tucker Carlson which Genesis it was from. He had to tell you. You want to know why? Because you don't have credibility. You're a puppet. How does it feel to live your entire life knowing you're going to die a puppet? As long as you got your Haagen-Dazs ice cream and you can bilk the American people for millions of dollars, I guess it's all worth it, right? Man, craziness. Crazy. Let's go through this. We need to stop the chemical castration of Americans' children. We need to get back to free and fair elections. And by the way, it's not trivial. It's not. This isn't something. You don't even have to debate it. They can go stick their what in a blender. You can't debate it. There are no free and fair elections. Get out of here. Stop even talking about it. You don't even have. What, Elon? Go reprogram Grok to tell a little bit of truth. Don't talk to us about truth and you are the new news when you're blocking people and cutting off people's funds for being influencers that are doing the right thing. And only if you toe the line and you talk only good about these Bibi Jews. Get the hell out of here. What the hell's wrong with you? You know the election's stolen. You knew the night that it was a Serbian vote that was blocked in 2024 that allowed for only the presidential vote to go through the way it should have gone. You knew that night. So you know the elections are a sham, but you let Grok walk around telling everybody it's not. It's shit. It's shit. It's shit. The fact that you guys have to lie to people because you're so afraid of the truth and that it might get you what? Charlie Kirk? If you could only be so lucky to stand next to Jesus and God when you ascend into heaven, if you get there, but you're afraid. You're a coward. That's what it tells me about people. I care more about the almighty dollar than I do about my offspring, my children. Man, 724,000 American children, 3.3% of all 13 to 17-year-olds are now told that their bodies are wrong. Their confusion is destiny. And it's the only cure is a lifetime of drugs and surgery. This is not liberation. This is the largest uncontrolled medical experiment in history. The Frankenstein. The Williams Institute owned 2025 data shows transgender identification is more than quadrupled since 2017. Fueled not by biology, but by social media, activist classrooms, and a profit-driven medical industry that fast-tracks minors to puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, vasectomies, interventions that sterilize, shatter bones, and fail to reduce suicide risk, as confirmed by the UK's case review and systematic evidence from Sweden and Finland. Over 1,000 U.S. healthcare professionals have signed the Doctor Protecting Children Declaration, warning that gender-affirming care is iatrogenics, harm dressed as compassion. Yet taxpayer dollars are still fund this mutilation. This is child abuse by policy. It must end. Mental collapse is a real epidemic. Nearly half of transgender and non-binary youth seriously considered suicide last year. Triple the rate that their peers, according to the Trevor Project. 2/3 suffer clinical depression. Autism, trauma, and family rejection are the true drivers, not gender identity. But instead of therapy, we give scalpels. The American College of Pediatricians has declared no child is born in the wrong body. European nations have already banned these treatments for minors. America lags behind science and morality, and when anguish festers untreated, it erupts. Witness the 18-year-old trans teen in Indiana who built a shrine to mass shooters and plotted a Valentine's Day slaughter, armed with an AR-15 and bulletproof vest. This is not random. This was the predictable outcome of a system that affirms delusion instead of healing pain. Congress, you have the power to stop the next tragedy. Pass legislation immediately to ban puberty blockers, cross-dress hormones, and gender surgeries for all minors. Defund any institutions performing or promoting these procedures on children. Mandate trauma-informed psychotherapy as a standard of care for gender dysphoria. Require full transparency on clinical outcomes, including detransition, rate, and long-term health impacts. No more delays, no more euphemisms. This is not healthcare, it is state-sanctioned sterilization of confused children. The world is watching, history will judge. Act now or carry the blood of a broken generation on your hands. It's sad that we actually have to even say that. But again, I don't have any credibility. I have 2 beautiful children. I have a beautiful wife. I've built a beautiful life. And I'm finally at a place now where I'm pretty much at peace. I don't care. I don't care about the influencer class. I want us to get to free and fair elections. I want to finish what I started. I'm laser focused on the fact that Dominion cannot operate, but none of them can. Not ESNS, not Smartmatic, none of them. And by all means necessary, we should eliminate every single one of them. And the hateful people, the people that are really just devils, that own Pornhub, that are exacerbating and creating a problem of sex trafficking of women and children, they should face the firing squad. They should face something so drastic that it pushes us to a place where we can get away from this deviant behavior that is basically killing and taking the lives from the innocent. And I'm sorry you can't see it if you can't. But I can. And Chris, you said something about the psychotropic drugs, I think, anxiety, depression, ADHD, etc. Yeah, those are the drugs that weaken the mind. You heard them a couple of days ago, the doctor said it. It weakens the mind of these children and makes them easy targets. And all these organizations are run by these dual citizen, tied to the CIA, tied to Mossad, this cabalish group of people that feel like you don't matter. You're a dog. Doesn't matter what race you are. They hate you more if you're dark. And they said that they're not white. They're their own race, but they're not. They're white as a driven snow. But they're demons. You want to put them on your own place? You can just have, hey, white, black, Asian, whatever over here, and just have a demon class over here. Because the Jews that are actually the God-fearing people, they don't mind being called white. They really don't. Will he help fix our election process? Yeah. I've got some things that I'm going to be pushing out to you over the next little bit, but right now I'm just going to pray for you. All right, let's pray it out. Father God, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to just be here today and to share something that's really difficult for me to share. It's difficult to talk about the degradation of our society and all these bad things that we face every day that are disguised as enjoyment, pleasure, as it erodes and destroys the very fiber of our country, of our community, and of our family. Worse than drugs, Father, it allows for loyalty to erode to zero and to get to a place where we become the most weak and conquerable people in the world. Father, we have leaders that have betrayed us and betrayed the very essence of what we are as Americans. And so I would ask that you would protect our leaders, protect President Trump, protect the other leaders that are doing the right things, and differentiate the wheat from the chaff. Make it so that we can see clearly who is actually doing bad, doing wrong to us as a society. And more importantly, Father, I just ask that you will rise up men to stand in the gap and fight. Fight for the soul of our nation, fight for the children and the women who are trafficked every day. Fight for the poorest among us that live inside of communities that are held hostage by bullets flying and drugs and crime. Help us to heal, Father, by putting limits in place that stop this perversion. And help us to recognize who they are. And Father, we should get to a place where we burn it down. So help us, whatever it is that we need to do. We know it's necessary, and we're here to play ball. So just help us to walk the path that you want us to walk. I say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. I do know Kurt Olson. Yes, I do. Will he help fix our election process? Yeah, I mean, he could. He's the lawyer that Trump hired for 130 days. Man, I hope he can. I hope he can fix it. And I hope he's on the right side of things. Oh, he's a very smart man. He was also a Marine. So if you want to think about Kurt Olson, he was a Marine. I don't know otherwise. I know that he's done some great things. I have, obviously I'm the guy that took Frank's speech public, and he's a shareholder in Frank's speech. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens that comes from it. Just pray for him. Pray that he does do well. Tubage. Pray he does do well. God bless you all. I will see you tomorrow. We have a great guest, Eric Holt. We're going to talk about election fraud and this cabal inside of the DA's office that is tied to his father's law office, who's swept under the rug election crimes that were committed, that were caught on video as plain as day, kind of like everything else. We're just not going to do anything with it. We're going to hide it. Only we caught him. We're going to do that tomorrow. Remember what I said, stay off of anything that has to do with pornography. And man, pray that we can get rid of these companies and these Jewish people in every part of our lives. God bless you.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fight where the wild ones roam. Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave